You've been grinding in silence, sacrificing when no one was watching, showing up when your body screamed for rest, praying when the answers felt distant. And still, you stayed, you endured. This isn't just discipline. This is war. A war against every doubt that told you to quit, against every voice that said you weren't enough, against every system that never saw your worth. But hear me, your breakthrough is imminent, not someday. Not when it's convenient, not when the world finally decides to applaud. It's now. It's rising like a storm behind the horizon, and it's coming for you. Because you didn't just survive, you evolved. You didn't just lift weight, you carried purpose. You didn't just build muscle, you built a message, one that says, I am not defined by what broke me. I am refined by what I chose to build. You are the answer to someone's prayer. The proof that strength can be sacred, that power can be humble, that faith can wear scars and still stand tall. So don't flinch, don't shrink, don't wait for permission. Your breakthrough is imminent, and it's not just about you. It's about every woman who was told she couldn't be strong and sensual. Every Black athlete who was boxed in by stereotypes. Every survivor who was told their story was too messy to be holy. You carry them. You represent them. You fight for them. And when your moment comes, when the light hits just right, when the doors swing open, when the world finally sees what you've been building in the dark, you won't just walk through. You'll break through, so breathe deep, lock in, and remember, you're not waiting on a miracle. You are the miracle, and your time, it's not coming, it's already here. They're coming for you, not with swords and chains, but with whispers, with distractions dressed as opportunity, with comfort disguised as peace, with lies that sound like truth. They're coming for your mind, for your discipline, for your identity, because you didn't just wake up today. You rose, you stood, you declared war by showing up with purpose, and hell took notice. You think this is just another day? No, this is a battlefield, and the enemy doesn't attack what isn't a threat, so they're coming for you. But you're not unarmed. You've got the word, the sword of truth, the shield of faith, the armor of God strapped to your chest like a badge of honor. You've got scars that speak louder than fear. You've got prayers that shake foundations. You've got a calling that cannot be revoked. So let them come. Let the storm rise. Let the shadows stretch long. Because you were built for this. You were forged in fire. Refined in silence. Strengthened in solitude. You don't need applause. You need alignment. You don't need validation. You need vision. You don't need comfort. You need conviction. And conviction is what makes you dangerous. So when they come, when the doubt creeps in, when the temptation feels justified, when the pressure mounts, you don't flinch. You don't flinch. You don't fold. You don't negotiate with darkness. You speak. You declare. You remind the enemy who you belong to. I am chosen. I am called. I am covered. You walk into the gym, into the studio, into the silence, and you bring heaven with you. You bring discipline. You bring fire. You bring the kind of presence that makes demons tremble, because you don't just lift weights. You lift burdens. You don't just build muscle. You build legacy. You don't just train. You transform, and transformation is warfare. So let them come, let them try, because every time they do, you rise higher, you burn brighter, you get stronger, and the gates of hell will not prevail. You are not just surviving. You are advancing. You are not just enduring. You are conquering. You are not just here. You are sent. So walk like it, speak like it, train like it, because they're coming for you. But they forgot one thing. You don't fight alone. Heaven backs you. Angels surround you. The Spirit fuels you. And when you move, mountains shift. So go ahead. Let them come. You were born for this. The world doesn't want you to win. Not really. It'll clap for your survival. But go silent when you start to thrive. It'll celebrate your pain, but get uncomfortable with your power because your victory exposes their excuses. Your discipline disrupts their comfort. Your light makes their shadows harder to ignore, so they'll try to tame you, with labels, with trends, with watered down versions of your truth. They'll say you're too intense, too spiritual, too focused. But what they really mean is, you remind me of everything I gave up on, so the world will try to distract you with noise, with comparison, with applause that feels good but leads nowhere. It'll hand you comfort when you need conviction. It'll offer shortcuts when you were built for the long haul. It'll tempt you to trade your calling for clout, but you weren't made to fit in. You were made to stand out. You weren't made to be liked. You were made to be light. You weren't made to be safe. You were made to be sent. So let the world watch. Let them misunderstand you. Let them question your fire because you don't answer to them. You answer to the one who called you, the one who saw your struggle and still said, go. The one who gave you vision when all you had was pain. The one who anointed your scars and turned them into strategy. So when the world says you're too much, you say, I'm just getting started. When they say you'll never make it, you say, watch me. When they say you don't belong, you say, I was sent. Because you don't just train for aesthetics, you train for authority. You don't just build muscle, you build momentum. You don't just show up, you shift atmospheres, and the world doesn't know what to do with someone like you. Someone who's disciplined when no one's watching, someone who prays before they lift, someone who carries both fire and grace, someone who refuses to shrink. So let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them scroll past your message because you weren't called to be viral. You were called to be vital. You weren't called to be trendy. You were called to be timeless. And timeless warriors don't chase applause. They chase impact. So keep building. Keep rising. Keep speaking, because every rep, every prayer, every post, it's warfare, and the world may not want you to win, but heaven already declared it. You're chosen, you're covered, you're unstoppable. So walk like it, train like it, speak like it, because the world doesn't want you to win, but you weren't built to lose. You thought this was about you, about your goals, your grind, your growth, but it's bigger than that. You're not just fighting for you. You're fighting for every girl who was told strength isn't feminine. For every boy who never saw a black athlete lead with both power and prayer. For every survivor who still flinches at their own reflection. You're fighting for legacy, for the ones who haven't found their voice yet, for the ones who are watching you in silence, wondering if they're allowed to rise too. You are the permission, you are the proof, you are the prophecy fulfilled. So don't hold back. When you train, you're teaching someone how to endure. When you speak, you're giving someone language for their pain. When you pray, you're shaking chains they didn't even know they were wearing. You are not just a lifter. You are a liberator. You are not just disciplined. You are dangerous to every system that profits off silence. You are not just building a brand, you are building a bridge. And bridges don't ask who's worthy to cross. They just stand. So stand when it's heavy. Stand when it's lonely. Stand when the world says you're too much, because someone is watching, someone is waiting. If someone is praying for a sign, and you are that sign, you are the echo of every ancestor who fought to be seen. You are the answer to every prayer whispered in the dark. You are the fire that refuses to go out. So don't shrink, don't soften, don't apologize for being chosen. You were called to carry weight, to speak truth, to walk in power. And when you do, you don't just win, you awaken. You awaken strength in others, you awaken faith in the forgotten, you awaken purpose in the broken. So keep going, because this fight isn't just for your crown, it's for every soul connected to your obedience. You're not just fighting for you, you're fighting for freedom, for representation, for redemption, and when you win, we all rise.